Welcome to the Museum of Natural History at the University of Michigan. My name is Meredith, and I'm excited to tell you about a time before you, me, or any other human for that matter was around. Of course, I'm talking about the age when dinosaurs were walking around. You can go ahead and pause this broadcast while you head to the back right-hand side of the second floor of the museum to find the giant dinosaur leg bone. Are you looking at the bone? Well, if I told you that the dinosaur that this leg belongs to was actually related to a bird, what would you do? Were you thinking that a dinosaur that was as big as this could fly? No. Although it's funny to imagine, that's not exactly what I mean. I'm going to tell you about what makes this type of dinosaur so unique. When you talk about dinosaurs, what do you usually imagine? If it's a dinosaur like the one you're looking at, do you think of a dinosaur that's really big, ferocious, has sharp teeth to rip apart meat with? Well, your dinosaur was actually quite different than what you think. The bone here is from a type of dinosaur called a sauropod. Sauropods were indeed big. According to some scientists, they evolved into the largest animals ever to walk on the earth. Okay, so close your eyes and imagine a dinosaur that walks around on four legs like an elephant. Dinosaurs like these that walked on four legs were called quadrupedals. Give it a long tail like a kangaroo. Lastly, give it a small head that's attached to a very long neck like a giraffe. Do you have your dinosaur imagined in your head? Great! Now take that dinosaur and make it as long as 2 to 3 school buses. You would look like an ant compared to this creature. Well, that's what a sauropod would look like on the outside, but what about on the inside? Just like you, sauropods have a skeleton made up of many bones. Take your wrist and move it back and forth without moving your arm. Deep within your body, you have a wrist bone that connects your hand to your arm, don't you? Well, sauropods had a special wrist bone too. In fact, their wrist bones looked almost identical to the wrist bones of certain birds. Now, without moving your feet, move your hips around in a circle. Your hip bone is a very important part of your body and lets you move in many directions, right? Well, the hip bones of sauropods were also important, and guess what? Their hip bones look just like the bird's hip bones. So, a dinosaur this big has to eat, of course. If the dinosaur was paired up against you in a hot dog eating contest, who do you think would win? Believe it or not, you would! Sauropods actually were herbivores, meaning they ate absolutely no meat. They liked to chow down on the plants they could find, especially ones they could reach with their long necks. But there's something different about how the food moves through their bodies. During that hot dog eating contest between you and a sauropod, you naturally had to chew the hot dog before you could swallow it, right? But sauropods didn't have the same teeth that you do. Instead of chewing their food completely, they would swallow it whole. But there's another ingredient they would add to their delicious diet of leaves. They would also swallow rocks. Sounds good, doesn't it? Pebbles known as gastroliths were found near fossilized remains of dinosaurs. In order to break down all the food in their stomachs, it's believed that sauropods swallowed these rocks. Think of it like putting all your food in a blender. When it's all mashed together, it's easier to swallow. Well, the blender in the sauropod's stomach is known as the gizzard, which is the same digesting system that today's chickens have. Other than eating, what other functions are important for your survival? Just like you, sauropods had to breathe too. But guess what? These big creatures actually breathed like a bird. It's believed that small gaps in their bones had pockets lined with tissue. Inside these pockets, or sacs, there would be air. This process is called pneumatization. So essentially, these dinosaurs had air-filled bones. Believe it or not, birds have the very same air-filled bones. Why is this important? The breathing system is a major factor for the evolution of birds. A balloon that's not blown up will simply fall to the ground when you throw it, right? If you blow that balloon up the air, it no longer falls to the ground but floats to the ground. With the air in their bones, birds were able to evolve towards lighter forms necessary for flying. If sauropods have the same bone system, how do they benefit from it? Obviously, they didn't use their breathing system for flight the same way as birds did. But it is believed by scientists that sauropods could have used their air-filled bones for 3 reasons. The system is a more efficient way of breathing for these dinosaurs, since the air in the bones helps circulate air into the lungs. Another possibility is that these air pockets made the frame of the dinosaur lighter, which was helpful for these sauropods that had very odd body proportions. Lastly, it's believed that having air in the bones helped release excess heat. When you or I get too hot, we simply start to sweat to try and cool our bodies. But it is believed that because the dinosaurs didn't have sweat glands, this might have helped their bodies from overheating. So let's recap. Sauropods and birds have similar bone structures, they digested their food in a similar manner, and they had almost identical breathing systems. Before listening to this podcast, would you have believed how closely birds and dinosaurs are related? Sometimes you shouldn't judge a creature by its appearances.